All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, FOMC Day, the funnest day of them all. So, right now, odds are only a 7% chance of raising by 25 basis points. So, most likely, we're going to get a pause or a skip, as the Fed is calling it as of right now. But we are going to get the summary of economic projections along with this. They release this every 3 months. So, it was December, March, now June, to where they're going to give their estimates on where the federal funds rate is going to be by the end of the year. They're going to give where they expect inflation to be by the end of the year and where they expect the unemployment rate to be all by the end of the year. So they'll be giving us an update on that. My expectations, they would probably raise the unemployment rate estimate, considering that it has finally started to tick up from 3.4 to 3.7%. So maybe the markets could take that as a bad sign. Right now, we're seeing the Russell 2000 outperforming everything else, up by 0.2% ahead of this. You're seeing the NASDAQ, I think, down, basically flat at 0.02. We're seeing the S&P, I think, is up by zero point 0.1, yeah. And then the Russell 2000, or sorry, not the Russell. The Dow Jones index is down 0.3%. So you're seeing industrials selling off this morning, likely due to what happened with the PPI, the producer price index, came in lower than expected at was 1.1% versus 1.5% expected. So very low reading for the year-over-year PPI reading. And then the core PPI came in barely below expectations at 2.8 versus 2.9% expected. And then, let's see, the month-over-month reading was negative 0.3% versus negative 0.1% expected. So producer prices are coming down. So that could be good for consumer prices down the line in a couple of months. That would be reflected. But markets are taking this as recessionary, considering that the Dow Jones is selling off right now, whereas the Q's not really reacting too much to it, but it is down slightly. All right, let's see where we go in the open. QQQ starting at 363.25, so basically at yesterday's close right now. My guess is SPY will probably go up on the open because there's a lot of open interest in calls at 436. So the market makers will probably have to cover that. It's up from 436.66 to 437 right now. So likely you get a pop for SPY in the morning. And then where we go from there is going to depend on how people are feeling about the Fed this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And there's really not much action on QQQ to go by if you're looking at the open interest. The highest open interest on the option chain is a 360 puts with 10,100 of those, but there's not really much open interest anywhere else. There's a decent amount of calls open at 363, 5,000 calls, and then you have 5,100 at 365, but really past that, you don't have much open interest at all today. So people probably just taking the sidelines until the FOMC at 2 o'clock for QQQ. All right, 20 seconds to the open. All right, there's the bell for us. Tesla's down a little bit from the pre-market, but still up by 0.5%. This would be the 14th green day in a row if it does manage to close positive. Currently trading at 259.58, so close to 260, not quite there. All right, QQQ pulling back on the start. Let's see, SPY pulling back a little bit, but not too much just yet. Again, watch out for 436 below. That's going to be where we're bullish. If we do manage to go below 435, that would be bearish, considering the open interest on the puts and the calls. About 19,600 435 puts and 21,100 436 calls. Seeing AMD dropping on the open back down to yesterday's lows at 125. Nvidia's pulling back with that too, down about 1% right now. Actually, the worst performer for the big techs this morning. Nvidia popping right back off the jump. Catching support at 405.50 at the moment. IWM, or not IWM. AMD still seeing some selling. But catching support basically at yesterday's lows, 124.60, 124.50. Looks like Google, Tesla, both pulling back in the first 5. Amazon, pretty decent pullback there. Actually almost down to yesterday's lows. So the 3, Google, Amazon, Tesla, all pulling back. Nvidia going up here at 409. QQQ pulling back just because of the weight of the top 3. Microsoft going up, and then Meta. So the 3 leaders today, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and then your losers so far this morning are Google, Amazon, Tesla, and Apple's like right in the middle. Last night was all green, but now everything is red. Yeah. Seems like that's usually the case, especially at like, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock. There seems to be a huge sell-off, and then it just gets bought right back up in the pre-market from like 4 o'clock to 9. Seems to be the typical play in the overnight session. I really hate that the markets are live at 4 a.m., but not in our control. I wouldn't want to trade at 3, 4 a.m. because the bid-ask spreads would be terrible. But somebody sees some opportunity there. The market maker sees opportunity in taking the difference between the bid and the ask. Nvidia back to 410 almost. AMD is still not really getting any love, but Nvidia definitely feeling it. So this is making QQQ not really move too much on the open. You do have a slight tick down, but it's not really substantial because Nvidia is propping us up along with, let's see, Meta and Microsoft. If those 3 names were to come down, that's when you'll get a decent sell-off in QQQ. Let's see, SPY is at 437, so not really changed much. Again, your bullish line to look out for is 436, and then the bearish line, if we go below 435, there's a lot of open interest down there for the puts to start printing, but right now we're still well above 436, so still bullish right now. People are doubling down on the 435 puts though. 16,000 in volume, 19,000 in open interest. They're not so certain on the 436 calls though. There's only 3,400 in volume and 21,000 open interest. So SPY might have a little bit more selling pressure here, since there's not that many people wanting to buy the 436 calls yet. All right, you're seeing NVIDIA pulling back now. So now you should get a decent sell-off on the Qs. It's down to 362.50. Again, there's not a lot of open interest to go by until you get to 360. Then there's a lot of puts. Not a lot of open interest in calls across the board. You have a decent amount at 363, 5,000, but it's not really substantial. And then the 365 calls have 5,000. All the volume right now seems to be going in puts. There's about probably about 2 times as many puts getting bought right now in the volume. Doing good. How are you? Deep in the money. When is the Fed decision going to be announced? 2 o'clock. That's when they're going to make the rate decision. And then Papa Powell is going to come out at 2:30 with his statement that he's going to give. And then he does a Q&A at the end of it, which is usually where you'll get the most volatility from it. Usually the most amount of volatility for the FOMC meetings is during the Q&A and then right after the meeting is concluded. That's when you'll get the biggest moves. And usually it just reverses what it does at 2 o'clock most of the time. Doesn't mean that it has to happen, but that's the usual trend. So if markets go up on the rate decision, they'll probably come down when Powell stops speaking. QQQ is pulling back, but SPY isn't changing by much. You're seeing the Russell 2000 still doing pretty well, up 0.7%, actually reaching a new high at 189. So today seems to be a rotation trade out of QQQ and into the small caps, but you're not seeing the rotation into the Dow Jones, which is a bit unusual, but not really, considering the PPI this morning was kind of recessionary. You would expect that to pull down the industrials in the Dow Jones. Industrials, staples, energy, utilities, things like that will take a hit. Markets are having a hard time keeping Nvidia down. So you're seeing Apple, Microsoft, Meta, and Google in the gains. Google, Tesla. I'm really surprised that Tesla's given up here. Down to 255. Not really much of a pullback, but there's still a lot of calls getting bought on Tesla to where I would still think that there's a gamma squeeze going on. But looking at that hourly chart, this is what I've been going by. You'd want to gain some sort of support around like 250 if you want the gamma squeeze to continue to the upside here. Yeah, Amazon was pulling back pretty hard. Now that's recovering a tad. Let's see, Google's down the worst, 1.4%. It's a pretty flat morning. Kind of looks like a V-shaped recovery starting. We were oversold for a good 30 minutes, but now it's going back to 50 on the RSI, so that could be a pivot. Now there's a decent amount of volume going into the 363 calls. 3,200 right now, 3,300. 2,600 of the 364 calls. Still a lot more puts getting bought, though. You have 4,000 almost of the 363 puts. 4,500 of the 362 puts. But yeah, everything's basically back to where it started this morning. SPY's up by 0.1%, QQQ flat, Dow Jones actually down worse, 0.4%. IWM back to the pre-market highs and close to the pre-market highs, I should say, at 189. So if you're looking for two gainers this morning, it seems to be Meta and Nvidia having the upside this morning. Maybe you'll get a rebound on AMD if Nvidia's going up. But yeah, QQQ is just going back and forth between break even. FOMC will be at 2 p.m. Oh, yeah, for Eastern Daylight, and then for Central, that would be 1 p.m., yeah. QQQ slowly creeping up to 0.1% in the positive now. Largely led by Nvidia, going to 412 right now. And a small recovery for the losers: Google, Tesla, Amazon. Looks like SPY's above 437 now, so probably bullish above 436 today. Probably wouldn't want to hold that into FOMC at 2 o'clock though, especially with the summary of economic projections. That could be very, very volatile. More volatile than usual. But yeah, looks like we're probably going to stay above 436 until 2 p.m. today, I'm guessing, for SPY. Now the volume's flowing into the calls at 364 on QQQ, 5,000 calls. There's still 6,000 puts at 363. But the volume is starting to come into the calls. You have the 4,700, 363 calls, 5,200, 364, and 2,200, 365 calls so far bought this morning. Holding any positions through the meeting? Yes, I do have some bearish positions for QQQ expiring today. 362, 360 put debit spreads, which I think could pay out probably after Powell starts to speak, or after he finishes speaking. Probably on the rate decision, I think we're going to go up. Where we are before the rate decision, going to be hard to say. Probably, let's see. The options market's not really giving me too much of a clue as to where we're going to be. Besides all the calls that are getting bought, there could be some gamma squeeze to the upside. Maybe you see, I don't know, 366, 367 before the meeting. In best case scenario, I think. Yeah, so you're getting a V-shaped recovery on SPY, QQQ, Dow Jones not yet, and then IWM is actually pulling back from its highs at 189. So it looks like SPY is being led up by QQQ, the big techs, with Nvidia up 0.8, Meta up by 0.6, Microsoft up by 0.4, Apple 0.2, and then Google's down 0.9, Tesla's down 0.7, Amazon's down 0.4. probably the most likely to pull back would be the Russell, actually. If the Fed does what it's supposed to, or what it's been saying it's going to do, that would probably be the most likely pullback in IWM. If they end up pausing raising rates at this meeting and then raising at the next meeting, if they project that in the summary of economic projections, that would probably have the most weight on IWM. Because I think that the IWM is expecting them to just do a complete pause, but if they don't signal a complete pause in any way, then you're going to see a pullback in IWM. Yes, I will be live streaming the meeting at 2:30. Yeah, SPY's going higher, 437.60. Almost back to the pre-market highs. QQQ not quite there. Looks like those 364 calls everyone's buying might not get in the money. There's 7,200 people, or 7,200 contracts been bought this morning. 7,300, lots of open interest building, or lots of volume building, I should say. I feel like volume is typically a contrarian indicator, whereas open interest is usually confirming where the price action is going to go. So looking at the open interest, you would expect it to maybe get rejected at 364 since there's so many calls getting bought there. But there's enough open interest in the 363 calls to maybe keep us between 363 364 until the Fed meeting. But yeah, Nvidia's taken off 414 now. 415 almost. If the Q's as a positive reaction to today's Fed meeting, you might even see Nvidia at 420 today. I think that would be a new high for it too. Let's see where the open interest lies on Nvidia. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of 420 calls. Yeah, 17,700 calls at the 420 strike. And even 15,000 at the 415 strike. So lots of open interest above 415 that could propel us up if we get a good Fed meeting reaction. And then for the puts, there's really no competition until you get back under 400 with 15,000 puts with that strike price. But there's still 27,000 calls, so still more buyers at 400 than sellers. Yeah, looks like we got rejected right at 364. So like I said, I feel like volume is a contrarian indicator. There's also a lot of volume going into the 362 puts, I think, for this morning, which is almost where we bounced. Let's see. This is June 16th expiration. Today's expiration is the 14th. And there was 6,200 puts bought there. 8,100 puts at the 363 strike price. So Yeah, my guess we're probably going to ping pong between 363, 364. Maybe get down to 362 to 364. IWM is pulling back already. So again, I think this is probably the most likely trade to pull back, IWM, and that's already playing out so far this morning. 189 to 188 so far. Well, let's see how low it might go. It's already at the support from 187.50. Next possible support would be like 186.50 or so. So maybe you could see below 187, 186 by the end of the day. Am I trading this morning? I don't have any trades yet. I think the best opportunity here is IWM shorts. Like 187, 186 strike price, I think. IWM. 187, 186. That one's going for 31 cents right now, so it's a pretty cheap trade. Expiring today. Would have to pull back pretty far to get to 186. Another $2 drop, which is about 1% for it. I could see that playing out. Might give it tomorrow's expiration or Friday's expiration. Let's see if that's still the same price. It's about 20% more expensive, $36 you're paying for that. Extra $6 for extra 2 days. The market's just changed sentiment so quickly, I wouldn't want to have the extra days of expiration. It seems like we have a sentiment change like every single day. Yesterday, everybody was buying into the Qs. Well, I guess everybody was buying everything across the board. Even IWM was up. But today, you're seeing the rotation. The rotation trade was playing this morning where QQQ was down, IWM was up, but but now that's reversed. And so the theme for this market isn't very persistent. Create my own fund ETF. That'd be interesting. I've thought about them. Need a lot of funding for it. RSI is overbought and MACD looks overextended. Let's see, for IWM, it was overbought for the last 2 trading days on the hourly chart. I don't have the MACD here, but yeah, that just ended up crossing negative this morning, and you had the crossover to the downside on the 5-minute chart. Let's check the hourly. Crossover to the you had a bearish crossover here, but you're still way positive. So a little bit premature to call it a sell-off for IWM right now. But I would expect a sell-off post FOMC if they're gonna do the skip to where they pause for this meeting and then raise it in the next meeting. I think what IWM wants to see, the best case scenario for IWM is somehow they signal that this could be a pause. Then IWM could reach 189, 190. But I think it's pretty clear. I think that the Fed members have made it very clear that this is going to be a skip rather than a pause. That's probably what they're going to try to push today. Happy Wild Wednesday. Extra wild today with the FOMC. We've got a stall in the Qs right now at the highs from the day before, getting rejected about 365, a little bit below it. So it's kind of a double top formation. Let's see. And that was after yesterday's CPI print. So that would be a significant point for the markets to turn. And 364 is going to be hard to get above just because of the volume in the calls. 11,000 calls so far this morning bought at 364. And 9,700 puts at 363. So, again, my expectation, maybe you go above 364, but it doesn't seem too likely. More likely, I feel like that it would just be between 363, 364 till the Fed meeting. Am I streaming FOMC? Absolutely. 2:30. The VIX is falling right now. That's interesting. Usually you wouldn't see the VIX dumping ahead of an FOMC meeting. So you could maybe have some upside there. The only reason I would think there would be any upside for the VIX and volatility if you get a sell-off and a buy the rumor, sell the news. But this market, it seems like they want to buy the rumor, buy the news, buy everything lately. All right, QQQ is above 364 now. Still need another, usually like 40, 50 cents in order for it to confirm going higher. It went about 20 cents higher to 364.20. So not a significant break yet. Not until you get to 364.40, 364.50. Then you'll convince the bulls to keep buying. 12,000 calls though at 364 right now. Hardly any puts too. You have 3,800 puts at 364. Decent amount of build on the 365s, but still pretty low, only 5,000 right now. But only 1,200 call or 1,200 puts at 365 too. All right, here we go higher a little bit. Got about 30 cents so far. So QQQ leading the gains. The Dow Jones is still negative 0.25%, but recovering. And SPY's at 438 now. New high for SPY. Almost $440 for SPY. That's pretty nutty considering we were just at the 430 mark. So much buying pressure on SPY. There's a lot of open interest on the 440s too. 12,000. You have 21,000 and the volume right now. So people are tripling down on the 440 calls. Thoughts on AAP? Let's see. Advanced Auto Parts. Terrible sell off after the earnings. Recovering some, but still down pretty major. Down from 111 to 69. So it lost about 50% of its value since earnings. The earnings was positive 72 cents. Let's see where probably not a lot of trading going on AAP. It's not a super sexy name. The highest open interest you're looking at is the $70 calls, 1,200. Then the 75, there's 1,100. Maybe, I think the only good case for AAP in the next maybe couple of weeks is if the Fed does end up signaling a pause, then AAP would go up maybe to 75 plus. So I'd probably wait until after the Fed meeting. If they do signal some sort of pause in some way, then I would be long AAP. But until then, I wouldn't trade it personally. I'd wait until after the Fed meeting for that one. Nvidia is still at 415 almost. Leading the market up 1.15%. Meta is the same. So again, the two gainers this morning from the first 5 minutes were Nvidia, Meta. That trend seems to be continuing. Tesla finding some lows at 255, but not recovering yet. Google definitely rebound there. And Amazon almost the same pattern as Google. So recovery in Google, Amazon is what's kind of leading us to the upside, along with Nvidia being up at 415, Meta being up, Microsoft even is up 0.5%. And then of course Apple, these two big names being up 0.5% is definitely going to help QQQ. Yeah, Target's kind of like AAP. I would expect them to pop after the Fed meeting if they do signal a pause. Retail would be doing pretty well. But yeah, it's up 2.5% already this morning, so it's kind of anticipating that pause. But this one was major sell-off the past couple weeks after the earnings, 163 down to 125. So a small recovery would be wanted in this stock. 2.6% is pretty good today, though. Let's see, yesterday it was up from 126.50 to a close at 128.50, so $2 for $130 stock. Yesterday it was up 1.5% too. On top of today's gains of 2.5%, so decent rally from the lows. Sell-off could crash standing profits. Yeah. You can always hedge your positions. Like right now, I'm thinking about possibly hedging with a TQQQ call since I'm bearish on the Qs. Thinking about maybe a $40 or $41 strike for TQs. Would have obviously been better to buy this first thing in the morning, but did not there. Let's see. TQs. Probably go with Friday. This Friday's expiration. 50. Sorry, the 41 call is going for 50 cents. The 40 call is going for 88. So if we do get just a massive squeeze up post FOMC, I don't really see any open interest that would really squeeze us above where we're at for today. But if you're talking about the end of the week, I think there's a decent open interest for the 365 calls. Let's see. Yeah, 25,365 calls. 370, there's not that much open interest. There's only 11,000, and then the 375 calls, there's 44,000 open interest. So if we do have a massive squeeze by Friday, that would be another $10 from 364, 2.7% times 3 will be 8% for TQQQ if it does manage to go that high. 1.08 times 40 is what TQs is trading for right now, would lead it to 43.20. Very best case scenario, I think. Let's see, if it goes to 42, that will put those $1 in the money, which will be 2.4%. So that would be, wait a minute, 42 over 40 right now would be 5%. 5 over 3 would be 1.6% for Qs, which would put it at 360, 370. That I could see playing out by the end of the week. 375, I think, would be a stretch. Check on the ES options chain, see where it's off on your side. Sure. Yeah, give me a second. Let me try to snag these 41 calls and just get a couple of them. Be cheap. That'll be my cheap hedge. Oh, they done screwed me over with that. Put my order in for 52 and they dropped the ask to 51. Okay. Just opened a new QQQ, TQQQ. 41 call. So going over to ES, S&P futures, the options chain here. Let's see. Today's expiration. Where are we trading? 4,400 for ES, 4,430, almost. Not a lot of open interest here, but it is $4,000, so you would expect a reduction in open interest just because these are going to be a lot more expensive. Let's see. There's a lot of open interest at 440 or 4,400 for ES today. Decent open interest for the 43.75 and 43.70 calls, so probably going to get some upside there. And then there's hardly any puts until you get down to 43.70. There's 1,000 puts, and 43.50. There's 1,020 puts. So no selling pressure till you get down to 43.75 and 43.50. Right now trading at 43 or 44.30. Is off. How is it off? I'm not sure. I don't really use ES too much, but all I'm seeing is very low open interest on it. But if you compare it to the S&P, or SPY, I should say, it's about the same. Let's see, 435 strike price. There's 1,000 puts for 43.50 on ES, and then for SPY there is, if it'll pull up, oh, there's 20,000 puts. Interesting. Yeah, it does seem to be a little bit less open interest in ES than for SPY. If you're looking at the value of them. Current price is showing 44.20. Options chain is showing 43.80. That's strange. 44.80, 44.28.25. Are you sure you're looking at the right contract? Or are you looking at the continuous and not a different? That could be part of the discrepancy. Because each contract's going to have a slightly different price. What's my guess on Tesla for this Friday? Hard to say. Let's see. Tesla's back in the green to 261. By Friday, it's going to depend on what we get for FOMC today. But let's see. For Tesla Currently trading at 261, recovering from the drop this morning. I think there's a possibility it goes to 270 in best case scenario, where the Fed ends up doing what they're supposed to. The markets have been buying into that narrative. Let's see. You could have buy the rumor, sell the news, but I think people are just going to buy anyway. And there's a lot of open interest at 270, 25,000 calls there. So maybe you get to 270 by the end of the week in best case scenario from the Fed today. If you don't get best case scenario from the Fed today, you could maybe have this slip. Let's see. Back down to 250 possibly. There's 15,000 puts there, but there's still a lot of calls at 24,000 calls. So, and then at the 255 strike price, there's still 15,000 calls there. So, lots of buying between 250 and 255. But I think if you get buy the rumor, sell the news on the Fed meeting, you might get it down to 250. If you don't get the buy the rumor, sell the news, then probably 270. My TQ's calls are up right now. Nice little 10%. QQQ hitting a new high at 365.12. So it looks like my hedge is working a little bit here. Still a lot more calls at 364 though. 17,000 bought so far today, 10,000 puts. You're not bearish until you get below 363, where there's about twice as many puts. So maybe if you get a sell-off down to 363 by the Fed meeting, you could go down to 360, which would be the highest open interest for today's options. And then for the calls, 365 is your mark to look for with 5,000. So there's about twice as many 360 calls as 365 puts. So that would make me think that today would be more bearish. But we have to get below 363 to see 360. I would think before Fed meeting too, we'd have to be below 363. Pullback would be healthy. Yeah, it's not exactly a healthy market though. It's irrationally exuberant every single day. Let's see, the daily chart has just been up, up, and away. How many green days have we had? Let's see, this is one. If today ends up green, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be our 4th green day. Actually, 5th. Close was here. Close was here. So this will be our 5th green day in a row for a QQQ. But Tesla's on a 14-day winning streak, so hard to beat that. Hard to beat that. I forgot today is ex-dividend date for QQQX. It actually sold off thanks to ex-dividend date, 1.5%. That's tragic, even though QQQ is up today. So people got their dividend and they got out. That's kind of annoying. That's actually what I was planning to do. And now it's down 1.5%. My position's still up by 14%, but that basically wipes out the dividend that we got paid. Let's see, the dividend is 1 cent, 1.13 cents. And it's trading at 25. Very poor dividend. Thought it was more than that, but it's very unfortunate that ex-dividend date and FOMC date both lined up on the same day. Yeah, no problem. Crude oil inventories in 2 minutes. I don't usually pay attention to that, but let's see. IWM is still coming down. So again, this was the most likely trade to work out today, and that I did not take. So if we're getting a sellout on the IWM, you probably get a rally for QQQ post FOMC. Will be my guess for the initial reaction on the rate decision at 2 p.m. and then 2:30 and beyond. It's going to depend on how Powell comes out and how he reacts to the questions that they're going to ask. Chev, let's see. Cheviot Financial Corp. What is this? Must be a penny stock or an OTC over-the-counter stock. Thanks. All right, crude inventory should be out, so oil probably reacts to that. Down from 69.80 to 69.50 a barrel. Pretty big reaction to that. But it already had like a pre-reaction from 70.40 now to 69.50. Looks like all the fundamentals are screaming for a recession today. You're seeing the dollar index down 0.5%. This is a new low for the dollar index for the past week. Very brutal sell-off. Actually going back to May 19th. So the downtrend for the dollar continues. The 10-year is still up at 3.8, so that's not really screaming recession yet. Let's see where TLT stands. TNX is going up. TLT would be down. Yeah, closer to the lows at 101.87, low at 99.99 for the past month, and the highs at 103.96. So just kind of trading flat for TLT, the bonds, 10-year bond ETF. And then, of course, equities have been rallying pretty crazy this month. Even SPY is up from 409 to 440. That's $30, almost 7.5% for a month. Crazy, crazy rally. Oracle. Oh, you said CVX. Yeah, Chevron. Yeah, dropping on the oil inventories from its monthly high at 160. This one's been pretty flat for the past year, though. Not really seeing much love for energy stocks. Oracle, ORCL. I feel like Oracle's a decent one. They already had that huge pop post earnings, so that one, it's a little bit late to take. Let's see where the highs are. It's already at all-time highs. So not super attractive. Let's see where the options are, though. For this week, it's all calls up here. Trading at 122 right now. You might see it going to 125 by the end of the week. There's 8,000 calls there. And then 127 has 10,300. So probably somewhere in between 125 to 127. If today's FOMC meeting is good. LEN, I haven't heard of that one. Lennar Corp almost trading at new highs. Not sure what the company does, but they are profitable. Decently profitable too. Past 4 earnings adds up to $455. That's $9.9 or $9.50. Another $450 would be, let's see, 9.5, 4.55, 2.06. Total of $16.11 earnings per share. It's a $116 stock. So it's trading at 7 price to earnings, which is very low. But it really depends on what industry they're in. Let's see the Lennar. Lennar. Homes. Yeah, homes have been doing okay, even with the high interest rates. Low maintenance homes, modern. Yeah, home builders have been doing really good. So Lennar could be okay fundamentally. I don't think there's going to be a lot of options for it, though. Yeah, the most open interest you have for this week is 2,200 calls at 120. And beyond that, there's hardly anything. So options not really relevant. Fundamentals are going strong for it. I wouldn't want to be a long-term holder for home builders, though. With interest rates as high as they are and housing affordability as bad as it is, it's a very hard buy. What time is the meeting? The 2 o'clock is going to be the rate decision, and then 2:30 Powell is going to start to speak. Tesla's still squeezing here. I think today's really the only chance that you get any downside on Tesla. Although Tesla and Elon are pretty unpredictable with the amount of news that comes out on them, so there could be another catalyst to send them down, but I think today would be the main event to what could end up bringing Tesla down to 250. But QQQ just went about 365. Huge squeeze. That, what, 80, 75 on the RSI. It's the point that it pulled back before. At 75. But it was very, very short-lived. Only a day of pullback, really. And then it went straight back up. Eastern time, yes, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern. Good Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, Peter. Options profit calculator that generates a graph based on your strategy. Yeah, that one. There's a couple of them. You have optionsprofitcalculator.com, which is kind of archaic. It looks like it was built back in like the 1990s. And then you have the newer one, which is optionstrat.com, which is pretty helpful. Optionstrat.com. That one's a good one. Options profit calculator is kind of old. Let's see. TQs should be up about 1.5% now. Yeah, almost at $40 already. That's a bit concerning that this will be above 40 pre-FOMC. And Q is above 365 too. But considering we're above 365, the pullback down to 360 would be pretty hard to pull off. But it seems like everybody's buying right before the meeting. No sense of risk at all. Crazy, crazy market. The VIX is down to 1440 before too. Could maybe go long some VIX. Maybe buy a married put with it on UVIXY or something like that. UVIXY is down to 218. Jesus. What a terrible sell-off. It's hardly getting traded anymore since it's so low. Not much appeal to it. And VXX is at 27.75. Damn, Nvidia's almost up to 420, 417.69 right now. So if you're going to short any names, any specific names for FOMC today, Nvidia would be a good pick. Tesla would be a good pick. I don't know about Microsoft, but those would be my top picks for a pullback. That could possibly end the gamma squeeze that these two stocks are seeing. But the gamma squeeze for Nvidia only started a couple of days ago from 390 and up. So it could have a little bit more leg room to it since it was just recent. $420, $415 put debit spread for this Friday is going for $270, so you can make $230 from that. It's a bit expensive, but you only need about $2.50 of a pullback, which is reasonable post FOMC. For Tesla, this one you could see down to 250 maybe. So there's a little bit more margin I could see for Tesla to the downside than for Nvidia, which could give us a little bit better of an opportunity. Let's see, for Tesla, if we go 260, 250 strike prices on a put debit spread, it's going for 350. That's kind of pricey, but the profits could be very big. If you reduce the width for the spread, 255, 250, you pay 138. So that's cheap to make 362. And then if you just assume that it'll go down to 255, which I think would be conservative on a pullback for FOMC, you're paying 220 to make 280. And it did hit 255 this morning, so I could definitely see that playing out if we do get a buy the rumor, sell the news type of move. I'm only gonna buy one. It's gonna keep it cheap. All right. Cold, KOLD. That's the what is it? Natural gas, I think. Short position. No, I'm not a big fan of trading around natural gas. Haven't ever been a oil trader, gas trader myself. There's definitely a lot of news to like keep the oil moving in one direction or another, but I just haven't found that much interest in following that kind of. It's very geopolitical too, so personally I avoid trading oil and gas. Good morning, ABF. Tesla needs to cool off before their earnings. Earnings is a long way away. Let's see. Next earnings isn't going to be until July. So you got a long way to wait till that. The only thing that's really pushing it up lately has just been the options. Everybody buying into calls nonstop, which just kind of fuels a gamma squeeze where the market makers have to start buying shares to cover for them selling the calls to you. Since they have to sell 100 shares for every call that they sell to you, they have to start buying those in anticipation of having those options go in the money and be exercised and assigned to them. So yeah, I think I'm hedged for everything today. Hedged for buy the rumor, sell the news with Tesla. Hedged for more upside and just buying everything with the TQQQ calls. And then I got the puts expiring today, which I don't know if are going to work out. But there's still a lot of implied volatility in the options today, which could maybe signal us to the downside. Good morning, AA. QQQ is still doing very hot though. Trading at 365 and change, 365.20 right now. So hard to bet against it with that rally. Looking at RSI, you're definitely bullish 70 on the RSI for the 5-minute chart. Let's see where the volume is on the calls and the puts. I'm guessing there's probably a lot of calls. Yeah, 365, you have 15,000 calls bought this morning. 19,364 calls. And so far only 14,000 of the 14,000 of the 364 puts. So a lot more pressure to buy QQQ above 364 right now than to sell it. Unless the market maker wants to wipe out all of those 364 calls and bring us back down to 363, then you could get the sell-off. But for right now, it's looking like we're going to stay above it. It's a pretty long way down too. You need a dollar drop before FOMC. Looks like Tesla just dropped like 30 cents or so, putting my options slightly in the positive, 3%. Still a long way to get back to 255, but starting to look like a double top here. Right at 50 RSI, so still slightly bullish. Nvidia's still rallying like no other though. Meta is starting to pull back a little bit, looking like a double top, similar to what happened for Tesla. Now just below 260. But yeah, I think that's probably all the trades I got until FOMC at 2 o'clock. Thank you, Crypto Peter. If we can break this 438 level, where are we at for SPY? Yeah, we're right at 438. Looking at the options here, a lot of open interest for the 437s. Still pretty decent open interest for the 438s, but it's slowing down. A lot of volume going into the 438s too, 72,000. So that could be possibly a contrarian indicator to stay below 438. But let's see, it is still up a lot. And there is a lot of 437 calls to keep us above 437. But we got higher lows. The price is looking bullish still. It's at 58 on the RSI, so it's not super strong. And it is kind of descending on the relative strength. So it's slowing down to where people might want to start taking profits, but not really bearish yet. Got a call for 444, expiring 7/7. 444. It's another $7 from here. So you needed to go up 437. 1.6% plus whatever you pay in the premium for the break even. I think for SPY though, it could go up with QQQ if people are just buying the rumor, buying the news. If you have buy the rumor, sell the news, QQQ would go down. Maybe you get some money pouring into the Dow Jones, into IWM. But considering what the Fed has said, I think we're actually going to get a sell-off for IWM and Dow Jones. So either you get a sell-off across the board for DIA, IWM, QQQ, or you get a rally in QQQ and then a sell-off in DIA and IWM. Tesla's down to 259 now. It's a nice little pullback started there. Yeah, no problem, ABF. Thanks for being here, William. NVIDIA just hit 419, yeah. NVIDIA is very close to 420. Or there's more buying pressure from the market makers. If it does squeeze above 420, that could send it much higher. By the end of the week, 42,000 calls bought today, and then 27,000 in open interest. And then 450 is your next highest open interest. It would be hard to get to 450. Almost impossible. But 420 could happen by the end of the week. Maybe up to 430. But that would be like best case for QQQ, where you have buy the rumor, buy the news, instead of buy the rumor, sell the news. But yeah, that's all the trades till 2 o'clock, and I will catch y'all for the 2:30 live stream with our favorite Jerome Powell. See you, everybody.